So Raida wanted to know how you use the multiband compressor on your master bus. Maybe we could kind of demo it.
Sure. So the multiband compressor, as I was saying before, it's a 5-band compressor. So you're basically separating the frequencies into 5 different sections, and you're compressing each one individually, so you have control over the compression. So like when I press play, you can see how the little line thingy here, you can see it moving based on the frequency. I do everything, when I'm doing it, I have everything on a pretty low ratio. I have everything on a 1.5 ratio. And a fast release, and so just so it's touching it a little bit, but not like making huge changes. And I am really kind of going for, like, I'm compressing everything a little bit, but really there's probably more emphasis on the low mids and the sub. Yeah, and then the highs. So it's like, it's really tightening up that bottom end and allowing me to bring it out a little bit more. So it's not out of control, but it's still kind of got that beefy, punchy bottom. So that I'm primarily doing it for a lot of control over that. And then I compress the mids and high mids just a little bit. Just so that there's a little, just like a tiny bit. And then I usually, bring up the gain on the sub and the low mids, just because I'm, it's allowing, so I'm using it as an EQ a bit and a compressor. And it, I don't know if you'll be able to hear the difference. I can pull it in and out. I don't know how well you can hear the difference online, but.
Oh, we could try it, see if people.
Okay. Well, so hopefully that translated online, but.
Yeah. That kind of ties into another question someone had. So Alive Studio Peru wanted to know if you use some kind of like plug-in or control parameter for low frequencies, like 20 to 50 hertz. So, yeah.
I mean, that would be that. I also, any channel, like all my EQs, if you actually take a look at the SSL, I'm rolling off below 50 hertz. Just because you're gonna, like, over that in many tracks, there's gonna be a low frequency buildup. I mean, that'll start kick the compressors in really fast and start overwhelming your mix anyway. So it's a combo of rolling off, unnecessary frequencies like the below 50, and then using the multiband. And making sure that, like, sometimes, like, also too on the SSL, like if I'm gonna EQ bottom in, depending on what it is, I'll make sure that it's it's not a shelving EQ. I'll make sure it's like on bell, just so that it's not bringing up everything from that frequency down, like if I'm actually going to use the bottom. And then also, again, that goes back to also compressing after the EQ. I mean, sometimes I will EQ after the compressor, but kind of the bulk of the EQing I'm probably doing before the compressor, because that compressor is just kind of reining it in a bit. And then the multiband, again, is like kind of that's sort of the final thing where I'm, controlling it all and emphasizing it a little bit.
Do you EQ, actually, someone online was wondering, Trevon wanted to know if you EQ every instrument to make room for something like the vocals to sit in the mix.
I don't necessarily EQ everything. I mean, it's just I EQ as I see fit, because it's hard to kind of make that judgment across the board without
Right.
hearing your actual source material. But like, you know, I mean, I like keyboards and stuff. A lot of times I'll leave flat. I don't know if I've done that here or not. It's been a while since I looked at this, but like, you know, like for example, that, like, because a lot of times the keyboard patches, like, they already sound, they sound good, and they're definitely, depending on like if it's a pad or not, it might get right up into that vocal range. You know, and I'll probably, like, I don't think I would EQ everything in preparation for the vocal. I kind of EQ as I go, and you know, like whenever I'm working, you know, it's not just like a process down the line. It's like I go track, then I go back and tweak this one, then track, and go back and tweak these, and you know, so it's obviously a big tweaking process. And you know, I probably would say that I would probably, like, once I have the vocal up and the vocals in, then I'm making tweaks to the instruments and EQing the instruments based on that versus beforehand. So
Like you have to hear how they interact. To
yeah, I need to, I need to hear how they interact before I can make those final judgments. But that's like, I mean, and that's the beauty of the mix side of things.
Do you, can you talk a little bit about how you EQ vocals? Because we had someone wondering about whether you take annoying frequencies out of vocals or.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of, you know, there's the subtractive mixing, and then there's the additive mixing. I tend to add frequencies versus take away, just because, I don't know, that just makes sense in my brain, where it's like I want to, instead of, you know, it's usually I want to hear more of something, so I don't think of what I can take away to hear more of that. But if I hear something that I don't like, then I will go for that and find it and take it out. You know, usually I'm going to EQ some top end into the vocals, and some high mids. So like I usually do from 8K up on an SSL, and then I'll have the vocal enhancer that I was talking about, that's like kind of like the Dolby unit thing, and then if it's a male vocal, most of the times I'll hit 1.5, and that's, you know, and that just to make that a little bit more edgy and aggressive. You know, obviously if there's something that's like, I guess long answer to that question is that if there is a frequency that is sticking out to me that bothers me, then I'd be more inclined to go and pull it out, versus I wouldn't add stuff to get rid of it. But usually I'm adding things to EQ versus taking away.
Okay.
Not to say one is right or wrong, but that's just the way my brain operates.